Something goes quiet before anything ends. Not loud, not dramatic, just a small drop in the room, like the air shifted when no one was looking. A message goes unread. A thought stays unspoken. The body leans back just a little. Nothing is wrong, and yet something is. You can feel it in the chest. A tightness that doesn't ask for attention, it just stays. The kind of feeling that doesn't panic. It watches. Most people don't notice this part. They notice what comes later. They notice the distance, the delay, the sudden absence that seems to appear out of nowhere. But long before anyone feels left behind, something else is already happening. It starts as tiredness, not the kind that sleep fixes. It's a quieter weight, a slow heaviness behind the eyes, a sense that listening takes more effort than it used to. Conversations begin to feel thicker, like wading through water that wasn't there before. There's still care, still warmth, but it costs more, and that cost is rarely named. People assume distance means loss of interest, or conflict, or selfishness. That assumption feels clean, simple, but that's not the part most people notice. There's something quieter happening underneath. It doesn't show up in words. It shows up in timing. Replies take longer. Laughter doesn't arrive as fast. The body hesitates before saying yes. And no one asks about that hesitation. They just feel it. The strange thing is how sudden it looks from the outside. One day everything feels open. The next, it doesn't. But inside, nothing was sudden. Inside, it was layered. Accumulated, stored in places no one checks. Moments where something was felt but not said. Times when attention was given without being returned. Small emotional adjustments made quietly, again and again. Each one seemed harmless. Each one seemed manageable, until they weren't. But that's not where people look. They look for a reason, an event, a sentence that went wrong. They want a cause they can point to. There usually isn't. There's just a gradual thinning. Like a thread pulled too many times, still intact, but stretched, and no one sees the stretch until it snaps. What makes this confusing is how calm it appears. There's no argument, no warning speech, no explanation that feels complete enough to satisfy, just distance. And distance feels personal when you're standing on the other side of it. It's easy to believe it was intentional, calculated, but intention isn't always conscious. Sometimes it's protective. Sometimes it happens before thought arrives. That's where it starts to change. Not outwardly, inwardly. The body begins to lean away before the mind agrees. Energy gets conserved, not out of spite, out of necessity. This is where the misunderstanding grows, because from the outside, pulling away looks like indifference. From the inside, it feels like survival. Still, that doesn't explain the silence, the lack of warning. It doesn't explain why nothing was said. That question lingers. And it should, because the answer isn't obvious. And it isn't flattering. There's a belief that people who feel deeply are always expressive, always open. That belief misses something essential. Depth doesn't always speak. Sometimes it absorbs. And absorption has limits. The ones who notice shifts in tone, who register pauses, who feel changes in rooms before anyone else, they are often the last to speak about their own weight. Not because they don't feel it, because they're used to holding it. They've learned to be stable ground. And ground doesn't announce when it's cracking. There's something almost invisible about emotional labor when it's done well. When someone carries space for others, it looks effortless. So no one asks how heavy it is. They just keep placing things there. Stories, feelings, expectations, all gently, all reasonably, until the ground is full. But that's not the part most people notice. They notice the withdrawal, and they feel abandoned by it. The person pulling away often feels confused too. Not about the need to step back about why it's happening now. There's guilt. Quiet guilt. The sense of being unfair, unkind. So nothing is said, because explaining feels like adding weight to someone else. And that has never felt natural. Silence feels kinder. Distance feels safer. That's the paradox. The very sensitivity that allowed closeness becomes the reason for distance. Still, none of this is usually conscious. It unfolds slowly, below language, which is why explanations come late, if they come at all. And now we reach the part that usually stays hidden. the part that changes how this makes sense. It isn't about being overwhelmed by others. Not exactly. It's about a delayed awareness of self. There is a particular kind of person who notices others before noticing themselves. They register emotional shifts outwardly with precision, but inwardly they wait. They assume their own reactions will settle. That discomfort will pass. They trust their capacity to hold. For a long time, that works, until the body decides otherwise, because the body keeps its own ledger. It records every time something felt off and was ignored, every time presence was given when it was already depleted. And it does not forget. So when the withdrawal happens, it feels sudden only because the signals were internal. They weren't shared, not out of secrecy, out of habit. The habit of self-erasure disguised as generosity. That's the realization that lands quietly. The pulling away isn't a reaction to one moment. It's a response to many moments that never found a voice. Awareness arrives late, not because it wasn't possible sooner, because attention was elsewhere. This isn't about weakness, it's about orientation. When someone is oriented toward others, they often recognize their own limits only after crossing them. So the boundary shows up all at once, firm, non-negotiable, and it surprises everyone, including the one who said it. There's grief in that surprise. Grief for the version of closeness that felt sustainable until it wasn't. Grief for not speaking sooner, but also relief. A deep, quiet relief, because something finally stopped leaking. That relief is rarely visible. What's visible is absence. Absence invites interpretation, most of it inaccurate, because the withdrawal isn't punishment. It's repair, not dramatic repair, not righteous, just necessary. Still, necessity doesn't make it painless. For either side, the one stepping back feels misunderstood. The one left behind feels discarded. Both are true in different ways, and neither was the intention. This is why explanations feel inadequate. Words arrive after the body has already moved, and by then language feels clumsy, too small, so silence remains, not as a tactic, as a default. This is the hidden reason it looks like vanishing. The decision wasn't made in a moment, it was made slowly, in fragments. And when it finally surfaced, it needed space, not dialogue. That doesn't make it easy to accept, it just makes it human. Now the pace changes, not because there's a solution, because there's recognition. If this feels familiar, it isn't because it's common, it's because it's specific. Specific to those who learned early to track others closely, who became fluent in emotional weather that wasn't their own, who mistook endurance for connection. Pulling away then isn't a failure of care, it's the return of care to its source. That doesn't mean the door is closed forever. It means something inside asked to be heard. Finally, the quiet at the end of this isn't emptiness, it's space. Space where something can breathe again, and that may be all that happens. No reunion, no explanation that satisfies everyone, just a steadier internal ground, less stretched, less thin. From the outside, it will still look abrupt. From the inside, it will feel overdue. And that difference may never fully close. But understanding it softens the edges, not into comfort, into clarity. A clarity that doesn't demand action, only recognition. And sometimes that's enough to let the silence be what it is. Not rejection, not mystery, just the sound of something choosing to stop breaking itself in half.